Hello everyone, Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver has officially arrived on Netflix, and I have to say, this was an entertaining popcorn flick, and it was an action-packed conclusion from Part 1 last year, and I think going into this, if you're not a fan of Zack Snyder's work, or if you weren't a fan of Rebel Moon Part 1, I don't think this is going to sway you in any way. Now, many might be waiting for the NC-17 versions that have heavy sex and violence. And I really do want to see those versions after seeing the PG-13 versions. You know, the PG-13 versions are not bad. They're entertaining in their own right, but this world and these characters have so much potential, and I feel like watching these films, we haven't seen them live their full potential yet. You could definitely tell the influences from Star Wars and even Seven Samurai in a way. This felt very much like a Western, like Magnificent Seven or Seven Samurai, where these farmers have to be trained to prepare for a showdown. And this does continue right after Part 1. In many ways, it's kind of like Dune Part 2 to Dune Part 1, you know? Like, you could watch both as one film, really. And that's the thing. Netflix didn't really promote this too much, but with the stuff they did promote, they almost gave away the entire movie, really. And that kind of bummed me out. I was a little bit let down by this. The beginning, the first 30 minutes, drag on and are slow in parts. It's not until the action that this film kind of gets a bit of an adrenaline shot, and there's a lot of emotion near the final act, I must say. A lot of surprises and characters that you thought would be around are not around. So I like the stakes in this film. Sofia Boutella is great as Cora. We get more of her backstory in this. She's probably the most fleshed out character, and her relation with Balosaurus, who I wish we saw of more in this. He was teased in Part 1 and they really don't do anything. Ed Skrein returns, and he's even more unhinged in this one than he was in the last. He's great as the villain, but some part of me just feels like it's a bit redundant bringing him back after last time. However, with Nemesis and the other characters, we finally have backstories from the footage we saw in the teaser trailer, and I like the backstory. I wish we got to spend more time with them. I kind of wish some of that stuff was in Part 1. But again, I don't know how the extended versions are going to be structured and the tone of them. That might change things a great amount. But the visuals here are spectacular. The music by Tom Holkenborg adds so much emotion and weight. Jimmy the Robot by Anthony Hopkins. He's not in it much, but when he is awesome. And I like the use of slow-mo. We get to see a lot of Zack Snyder tropes in this film. Despite the slow opening, I felt just a tad let down with this. Not that the action was bad or anything, it's just that it was very simple, and it doesn't feel like a sequel to Rebel Moon, in my opinion, and it says it on the title card. Part 1 and 2, I feel like these two films are the first movie. It's not like, here's Rebel Moon 1, and here's like Episode 2, Rebel Moon 2. It's like, no, it's not like going from Phantom Menace to Attack of the Clones or A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back. It's like, they're the same movie. It's like Dune and Dune Part 2, where it's like one narrative. And it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to explore this world. I cannot wait to see how this world is explored. I think it'd make for some interesting graphic novels. We have the Blood Axe comics, but I'm just worried that if they don't get the chance, it's going to be another franchise that's just left kind of cliffhanged. And I kind of wish on some of the Zack Snyder stuff, I love his work, I kind of wish he would just put everything in one movie, if like there's risk of the sequel not being made. That being said, though, the characters, he does take some swings like an Army of the Dead, and that can be polarizing to some, even kind of ruin potential of certain characters. But at the same time, I like that because it doesn't feel like a film made by a committee, you know? And this is like the compromised PG-13 version. I want to see the uncompromised, unhinged Zack Snyder film where he's off the leash, goes Paul Verhoeven RoboCop on the director's cuts. They're going to be here later in the year, sometime late summer, so we'll have to see. But if I had to give Rebel Moon Part 2 a score, for me personally, I rated a 3 out of 5 and a B+. It was a nice action-packed popcorn film that actually had moments of like being a 5 out of 5 picture for me near the end. There's a lot of level of emotion, and there's a lot set up. Certain twists I thought were going to be paid off that weren't quite paid off in the way I was expecting, but then there's other moments with character development and background that's definitely paid off. If they get to make the sequels, I hope to see them, especially Part 3. but I hope they have a plan, and I hope they don't just keep it going with cliffhangers, because if you don't get a chance to finish it, it's going to feel like a John Carpenter movie with a cliffhanger, but like a lot of stuff not really resolved. And I want to see certain stuff with Belisarius and the world resolved with the war with the rebels against the Imperium. I think that definitely needs some resolving. And if there's a sequel, I will welcome it. But Netflix, I know you love your PG-13 versions. We'll see how the director's cuts are, and if they're superior than these PG-13 versions, I say instead of having him do 2 versions, just let him do his NC-17 versions from the get-go. Seriously. I think Rebel Moon Part 1 and 2 would have been better as like a 3.5-hour movie. Anyway, that was an enjoyable ending, and I wouldn't mind rewatching these films again. I think that's the best viewing. If you've seen the Part 1, watch Part 2 by itself, but I recommend rewatching Part 1 and Part 2 as one film. I'm going to do that with Dune. I'm going to do that with Rebel Moon, and I think that will greatly shift my opinion on this second part. It's like watching Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2 together. Get some cheddar popcorn, get some toys, and watch it, yeah. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. Let me know your thoughts on it. Were you excited? Did you enjoy it? Were you a little bit let down? Let me know down in the comments below. Whether you liked the film or hated it, please be respectful to each other. Don't be an asshole. And if somebody enjoys it, don't take away their thunder, man. Don't just piss all over the parade. Just don't. I'm tired of the toxicity. I will have zero tolerance for it. In the meantime, you can check out these other videos for more content. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Till next time.